Welcome to Arts Roll Call, a podcast showcasing artists and arts organizations, highlighting the role of the arts today in Greater Lansing. I'm Robin Miner-Swartz, and I'm an editor, communications consultant, and lifelong arts advocate. And today I'm talking with Najeema Iman, a Queens-born, Detroit-bred, Lansing-living creative entrepreneur. She's the owner of YouShine Events and Consulting, and during the pandemic, she co-created the group Black People Lansing, Michigan, BPLM, helping more than 650 Black entrepreneurs and community members connect and celebrate each other's wins. Najeema has also served as the event coordinator for the Block Market in partnership with Lan Art Bus, where she helped organize 6 minority-focused pop-up style markets in downtown Lansing. And recently, she coordinated the AfterGlo Market, debuting at Lansing 501's Blockade event, bringing good food, good music, good fun, and good people to downtown Lansing. Basically, she's a powerful, positive force in our community. Najeema, welcome to Arts Roll Call.
Hello, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you have so many different projects and endeavors going on. Tell us a little bit about yourself as an arts entrepreneur.
You know what? I don't know how I became, I became it by being an artist. So I started with Curating years ago. So a lot of people in Lansing actually knew me by my jewelry and accessories company first, which I made handcrafted paper jewelry, t-shirts. I have the Artivist collection that I had as well. And the Detroit Don't Call It a Comeback because we don't stop. But I say my journey as an entrepreneur really started back in the day when I was in middle school, where I was selling penny candy, So you buy it for 1 cent, sell it for 5 cents. And then, also I was selling like little Kool-Aids and Kool-Aid and lemonade and packs. And so it really started there. So that's kind of how the entrepreneurs start. But I've always kind of been artistically inclined. Definitely by my parents meeting in New York in the 80s. They went to FIT. And so I kind of had, when I was born, it was kind of something that was in me. And then my mother, through exposing me, and grandmother, my late grandmother Marie, exposing me to the arts and cultural experiences in Detroit at Hart Plaza, and by being in Mosaic Youth Theater, going to see Dance Theater of Harlem, going to New York, and seeing the Thanksgiving parade there. So really those things are kind of really the culmination of who I am today. Like, I like to use the word curate. And so I don't just create, I curate market spaces and creative spaces and work in creative placemaking. So that's really like all of my Detroitness, my Lansingness now, and even my, Rochester, because I went to school in Rochester for a while, my being in Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee for a while, all of those experiences kind of make me the creative entrepreneur that I am, and make it so I can teach other entrepreneurs how to do things. I recently hired I call her my artist in residence intern. And so she's actually only a few years younger than me, but her name is Christina. She's a phenomenal artist and mother, entrepreneur. And I'm able to provide a platform for her and teach her my experiences with Curlitude, like the best vending practices. Because it's an art to networking. Because I curate and I network and I create spaces. Like, my days are like crazy. Like I was telling you before, I had to go do an outfit change. I got like 3 shirts here right now. So that's like kind of how I am. I have my mobile desk, which is my yellow backpack. I got my water bottle. That's how I am as a creative entrepreneur. I travel. Today I've been to the Rusty Mug for a meeting with a representative for the Root Doctor Band. And then I left from there and went to a meeting with Jeremy from Red Bike Delivery at Social Sloth. And now I'm here at DLI's Downtown Lansing Incorporated office interviewing with you. So, as a creative entrepreneur, I'm always on the move, always doing something. And it's a reflection of being that New York pace of, being steadily in motion. And I think that's the energy that I like to bring to a lot of my projects as well.
Well, it sounds like you were born to be a placemaker even before creative placemaking was a thing. So this is the perfect venue for you.
I didn't even know. Like, sometimes I get like, it's crazy for me. I'm like, do I know what I'm doing? But when you look at creative placemaking, it's really about being a community bridge and being a community advocate. And so in everything that I do and I create, I want to make sure that I, create those spaces. Behind the scenes, a lot of people don't know is that I try to make at least 50 to 60% of my market BIPOC or LGBTQI plus, meaning that it's a specific target of 50 to 60% of my handmade vendors or artists are going to be people from those particular communities, because those communities are historically at art markets, they're underrepresented, whether it's they don't have enough funding or they don't know about the event or they're simply not welcome. So when I'm partnering with Downtown Lansing Incorporated and partnering, with the Arts Council, which, AfterGlo actually would not be possible without a pocket grant from, having that grant opportunity. So when I'm partnering with these organizations, I want to make sure that we have a seat at the table and are able to create our own seats. And like I said, I got to shout out Downtown Lansing. This is my second time that I've had to use the office space at Downtown Lansing Incorporated to be able to, interview, Downtown Lansing has given me the space to curate and create. And with working with CISO, who's on the Downtown Lansing team, to working with Kathleen and working with Julie, who newly joined the team, they really give me a space to fly, and to just they're like, I have an idea. I want to do this fashion show. I want to do this. And then Downtown Lansing is like, yes, let's do that. Let's see how we can make it happen. Very rarely do they shoot down an idea. I don't even think they've ever shot down an idea I've had. They've really worked with me as a creative entrepreneur to provide the space and the platform and the opportunity, because I want to see not just myself win, but I want to see other businesses win. At least half of the businesses that I work with started in the midst of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Nature's 92 started with her CMOS, started in the midst of the pandemic. Skin Studio 211, which is located in Delta Township, she started her in the pandemic. Rock the Block, which is with my friend Dancing with the Nordays with Tiffany Norday, they started doing outdoor classes in the pandemic. So a lot of these businesses have not had the opportunity to have a platform. And so as a creative entrepreneur, I want to provide that to them. Eventually, I hope I have a space. That's my next big ask, is I want to have a space where in the winter and fall, these same vendors can do events, have markets, be able to, make things. So fingers crossed, I'll have a space very soon.
Well, let's talk about those pop-up events. I mean, you've been working on things like Block Market and AfterGlo. How did those begin? And I know you're talking about wanting to have a space. Where do you see these kinds of shops headed for the future?
So I started originally in Detroit, and I thought about that soon. So I started with an event called Locals Link Up to Pop Up. And it was in combination with a friend of mine who's also a fellow artisan, who I hope to have her soon. Her name is Fashion Junkie. And she makes really, really unique, one-of-a-kind pieces. And so we noticed then that in Detroit that we wanted something to have that was small, where different vendors could come and, sell their wares. You can eat good food and kind of socialize. And that was maybe about 5 years ago. About 5 years ago, we did Locals Link Up to Pop Up. And as time went on, it just was harder to continue traveling back and forth to do that on 1 weekend a month. And so I transitioned away from that and started focusing on Curlitude. I went through a divorce. And when I went through my divorce, creatively, I kind of got drained. So I was selling a little bit, but I wasn't creating places that. So I evolved from Locals Link Up to Pop Up to doing what I call Ladies Night Live Squad, which is where I took women from actually 3 years ago. I was taking women out to do karaoke. I was putting together brunch events and various different things of that nature, just to kind of build a community here in Lansing. And people were enjoying it and we got traction. But then the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. And I literally had my last brunch on Galentine's last year. And it was great. I had 30 women come. We had brunch. We socialized. And I actually had a movie night planned for the premiere of Mulan. And then here you go. Yeah. The pandemic happens. And so Cecil and I, prior, a few months prior, had kind of sat and talked. I call it kind of the Black Renaissance movement. So we were sitting at Blue Owl, the Rio Town location. It was myself, my friend Adam, Cecil, Tiffany Norday, James Garden, and my photographer, who's also on my team, Blake, from Paradiso Photography. And we were sitting there and we were like, we all do something. And this is kind of really where BPLM came from. It's where the block market came from. It's where AfterGlo stems from. Like, all of them started at, I call it like the Lansing Black Renaissance movement, because a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people realize it, but there are so many African-American artists of color here who are really doing things, from like Oze, who's doing things, Wise Counsel. Sarah Anthony is an artist of color, but she's really a powerhouse for the community. My friend Tiffany Norday, who is doing so much in the community. You have Leo Brown from Black Wall Street, who's doing stuff. And so we, in that moment, we each talked about how we wanted to be involved in doing things. This is before YouShine was created. This was before any of those businesses had officially became a thing. And so in sitting there, we noticed a hole that the four corners weren't communicating with themselves in Lansing. By that, I mean East Lansing, Grand Ledge. You got West Lansing in the Delta Township area where I am. You have Downtown Lansing. Like, we realized that everyone had something going on, but no one was communicating. So Tiffany and I, at our kitchen table, I believe it was maybe April of last year, got together and we were like, okay, we're going to connect these four corners. How do we do that? We researched a group that is in Grand Rapids and kind of how they functioned. And we were like, okay, let's create a community page. And so we added everybody that was at their table. But everyone that was at that table, several of our friends, we got together and we invited a friend. And when we invited a friend, that friend invited a friend for when it comes to BPLM. And so we went from, 50 to 100. And then now we're actually at over almost 790 members, even from since I told you. So it's been like a steady traction of us growing. And I think that's kind of a reflection of the events that were this weekend, because there were 7 Juneteenth. There were 7 Juneteenth events this weekend. I had the opportunity to be a part of 3 of them. I coordinated the BPLM mixer. Then I was the vendor coordinator for the market with Mikey Austin, the 517 Juneteenth. And then I also went to the Corzo Effect event that was last night. That was a jazz event. So really, I feel like YouShine evolved out of a need. I'm a self-professed people collector and connector, meaning that I have a lot of people in my network, and it's grown over time. And I absolutely love people. I love connecting with them. I love being, in relationship with them. And I like to say your culture is capital. And I also say your community is capital. Because if you have an excellent community and you have an excellent culture, within that community network, the money will come and you'll be able to circulate that dollar within the community. So YouShine came out of necessity, and really the block market came out of necessity. Cecil and I, my aunt died back in November, and we had a conversation. We had been having conversations prior to that about like doing some vending and things of that nature, but we really talked specifically when my aunt died, and we were like, we need to do a market. Okay, let's do it on the bridge right next to the Lansing Event Center. And I'm like, okay. And so I called up a friend and then called a friend. Got a whole lot of no's from vendors who were like, I'm not ready to do anything in the pandemic. But then I started getting yeses. I started getting yeses from Stay Rooted, and I started getting yeses from Black Educated brand, and GV Fitness, and who else was there? Nature's 92 was one of our first vendors. And so we started, and then Cheryl Benjamin from Time to Travel. So we started getting yeses from them. And so we had 10 vendors, a square, which is good. It was on 10, 10, 20. So we had 10 vendors, ironically. And so, and Tosh Soaps. Tosh Soaps is one of our vendors too. And so we're all just sitting there. We didn't know when it was going to come. We didn't even know if people would come at all. Okay. Like, this is in the pandemic. Okay. So we don't know if people are going to show up. And so people just started, they were walking by with the dogs and some people were driving by and they're looking like there are 10 people and they're 10 Black people that are on the bridge selling things right now. I should stop and see what that is. And so that's when like a lot of our vendors, because there have been markets going on the South Side. And, you know, I'm not the first to do it. Okay. I'm not the first. I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not the first. You know, and so we realized that, wait, this is a thing. This is really like a thing. And we, you know, with the block market having a focus on women in entrepreneurship and, you know, the BIPOC community in entrepreneurship, that really helped to cement things. It helped to make us verified. And so to have our vendors come even in that first market, which we both were scared. Like I say I usually fall on the day of markets. Like I have a scar on my finger, right? And so the first market, and ironically, I have one there right now too. So the first market, I fell going to the market and was like, I was late to setup time. The very next market in November, I did the same thing, cut my hand in the same face. So I say it's like, it was a sacrificial, my hands apparently are sacrificial when it comes to the market. But we kept being persistent. And then it evolved, and I'm like, you know, the block market is good, but we need something. Lansing has a nightlife that is not tapped into. If you look downtown, there's not, like, you have the Exchange and that little strip, but other than the strip where the Exchange and Tin Can is, there's not really anything else downtown to do. Right. So where that comes in, the AfterGlo market, which AfterGlo, you know, I talked to Kathleen and I was like, yo, this is what I want to do. I want to do a night market. I think, you know, we should have artists that are both regional and local. And Kathleen was like, okay, let's talk to Paul. Let's talk to this person. Let's talk to that person. And it's naturally evolved. I did the tester market in combination with the Lansing 501. So shout out to Lansing 501. They were amazing partners. So I did the tester market with them, and people just said nothing but good things. 10 out of my 46 vendors sold completely out of everything. We're talking about like selling out of all your art, selling out of all of your products. Like we had Smoothie Queen, we had Marcus Leslie Cheesecakes, Michigan Drinks, who sold out, Nature's 92 sold out. So like all of them, they're like, when's the next one? Like, and they said it was one of the best ones they had, because I like to have a little edge to my, you know, to the events that I put on. And I like for them to be easy. I like for people to have a good time. I believe in having good music, good food, good people, good fun. Like that's at the heart of every event that I have, because I need some of that Detroit vibe, some of that urban, because Lansing is a canvas. It's a canvas that can be painted so many different colors and can be so many different textures, and it's so many different people. And I think we just need to bring it down, because I'm coming from the original capital to the new capital. And I need to take some of the flair of the original capital to the new capital and keep building those bridges. You know, I'm currently working on a project to take Lansing to Detroit, to take 10 vendors to an event in Detroit to curate a market there. And I'm doing the same thing, Lansing to Grand Rapids. And I also am doing, you know, so, and then Lansing to Portland, which I never would have thought of Portland, Oregon. But I have a friend who came this weekend. Honestly, I got to take a pause. Shout out to my friend Cody, who is also an artist. She just became a professor of arts and music education or something like that. Saw her at an event that I was vendor thing. This is my life. I'm people think I have the ADD, but I don't know. I'm a
You're just involved. Okay? You're busy.
I'm busy and I love people. And I'm really like, this is what I love. I love connecting people. But back to the story. So Saturday, I was at my YouShine booth and I was getting ready and I was prepping. And I saw a blonde Afro puff and a build that looks like my friend. And I was like, and the last time I saw her was on the worst day. It was the day that like things started going on in the CDC last year with us finding the pandemic, right? And so I was like, this is not her. And then she turned and I looked And it was my friend that I saw on that last, she likes to call them bad moments, that I saw on that bad moment day. And we have not seen each other since the pandemic started. And she's been living in Texas. So for me, I didn't know she was coming. And when I saw her, I just ran. I literally I jetted from my booth. I was like, Cody! Because it's something about, like, she was there when Ladies Night Live Squad started. And like we met, like I say, people collector. She was the choir director at my daughter's school. And so we became friends. Like, I've never met a stranger. I promise you I haven't. And so for me to see her, I have a picture of us like holding hands. It was like it was just like a full circle moment, because it reminded me from where I came from with Ladies Night Live Squad and where I came from with Curating, and just to see her. And it had been a long pandemic, because while I feel like I'm thriving now in the pandemic, it also was challenging in the pandemic, because being a person who connects and engages in community and is a people connector and collector, when the first couple months you can't connect with people other than online. I did start a little show called Tea Talk Without the Shade that was on Instagram. And so I still have like some of my IGTVs, but like I did that because it was a need. And I think for me, seeing Cody, she needed at that moment a community of women. During the midst of the pandemic, we've needed a community of artists and entrepreneurs. So with everything that I know, and they taught us I've heard it said before, when you see a need, fill it. So what's the need of the community and how can I fill it? Whether that's doing vendor coordinating day of, providing volunteers. My team is now almost at about 30, which I have a one-to-one model for my business, YouShine Events and Consulting. By one-to-one, I mean you give an hour, get an hour. It'll usually be more than that, but like if you are an artist and you can do social media, then that's a benefit of an hour to me, because you can help my business in that way. Well, I have a platform and I have a space, so I can in turn give you an hour or something equate to that. So I just call it hour for hour just because it's easier in technical terms. But like that's the model that I go, is hour for hour, and I think that's how you build community. And people ask me, how have you built a network? Like I'm at my limit. I'm at capacity on Facebook. I've had meetings with people who I never would have imagined I met, but it's really because I have community relationships. And I think we have to realize that sometimes it's not about the dollar amount. Sometimes it's about that individual and creating that relationship by working together and collaborate. Because with BPLM, we say collaboration over competition. And that is so needed in the artist community. Is like there's money and there's opportunity for everybody. But what we have to do is collaborate with each other. Like I collaborate with Downtown Lansing. I collaborate with AOTA Creative. Like I collaborate with these various organizations. And in that collaborations, we're able to do something 5 times bigger, because we take your budget, we take my budget, we put those budgets together, and we can make something happen bigger. And I think that in the artist community, if we collaborate together, if we work together, like, and we give and take, we barter, like in Africa, that's like, I think about when I went to Sherwood Forest Art Gallery this past, about 2 weeks ago. There were bracelets that were African trading beads, right? And like a lot of my designs from back in the day were African trading bead inspired. And they were trading those for money, and that was their currency. So literally an art item was currency in that moment. Like we don't use them now, African trading beads, as for trade now, but I can trade a painting for you to be able for providing a service, or I can trade a button for, you know, so we have our own commerce within the art community if we collaborate and work together and we use our culture as capital, our community as capital, our network as capital, because the monetary dollars are good. Yes, we do need money, but we need that culture and that community as capital to be able to keep it, what do you call it, productive and sustainable. Mm-hmm. Because the idea is to create a sustainable model within the creative community. Like, because anyone can sell a piece of art, but how can we increase the value of that art? By increasing the value of that artist. Mm-hmm. And that's at the heart of like creative placemaking, which I didn't even know I was creative placemaking. Shout out to Katie Yellow, who I met last year, who's in Flint. And she was like, you can do what I do. And I was like, what? She's like, you are me already. And I was like, no, I'm not you. And by Katie Yellow putting that buzz in my ear, it really, it did something clicked. Like I met her at the Creative Placemaking Summit. So, mm-hmm. you know, the Creative Placemaking Summit happened, and then they had some artists downtown at Rotary Park. And, you know, I went around, and then I met up with like Kathleen and a couple other people afterwards from Downtown Lansing. And in that moment, it was just a real moment, a real raw. And that's the realness of connecting. Like Kate, who would have knew? Katie Yellow didn't know me from anywhere, mm-hmm. but she saw something in me in that moment. And by her being open and honest and saying, this is you, this is who you are, this is how you are, that moment that Katie Yellow gave me changed the course of how I was able to do business and even form relationships. So it's so vitally important in our community that we take those chances and we talk and we network and we be honest and we be open with each other. Because in the creative community, we don't have to be divided. There's room for everybody at the table. Mm-hmm. There's room to make more seats. Let's build some more tables. Let's build some homes together by collaborating. Like that's what I'm on. Like that's at the heart of everything I do, is that community component. Because I will be nothing without the various communities that I'm a part of. The artistic community. Because while I may not paint as often as I used to, I'm always a part of that community, and being a part of that community has literally changed the course of my life. Like I would have never thought to want to move to Downtown Lansing, mm-hmm. but because I was given an opportunity, now I'm like, okay, I need to, like, I literally need to. I'm here like at least 4 out of 7 days a week. But it's because of the community. So I'm a part of the Downtown Lansing. I'm a part of the Delta Township community. I'm a part of the Black community. I'm a part of the artist community. And whatever a community that you are a part of, you got to embrace that and use that to your advantage. But don't just use it. Make sure you give back to that community. Because a lot of people take from their community but don't give back. So it's the saying that says, to much is given, much is required. Mm-hmm. That's what I live by. Much has been given to me, much investment from my grandmother paying for me to go to school in Bloomfield Hills. That's a lot. My grandmother was old, scrubbing toilets so I can go to the Academy of the Sacred Heart, mm-hmm. which gave me a ton of experiences. Paying for me to go to college, there was a lot given to me. And not just in money, but there was a lot given to me through programming that I was participating in, which I'm such an advocate for arts education and programs. Back a while ago, my ultimate goal with all this is to form the Artivist Foundation, which I haven't, formed that yet. But I have a pen that I sold through Curating, and part of the proceeds from every T-shirt, I don't do it now because I don't have time or the connections to do it, but part of the proceeds from those shirts would go directly to arts education, meaning that if a teacher had a project she wanted funded, I would say, you need $100. Okay, directly out of my business account. And half the time I didn't even take the deduction. It was just $100 from my business account going to a teacher who needed to buy paintbrushes or Sharpies or whatever. So my ultimate goal, like, is to start Artivist Foundation. So YouShine Events will be here, Curls will be here, but I want to do Artivist Foundation so that I can give the money and invest the money back into Detroit, back into Lansing, that was invested into me, because art, whether it's visual, performing, like computer arts, because I think computer arts, digital art is amazing, is so important to kids' minds and their body. Like, it's so important that they have access to it. And not every child has access to it. So eventually I'll start Artivist Foundation and be able to give back to that community that I'm a part of.
So I have to say, like, I haven't needed to ask one single question because you are so good at telling your story and pulling us through the narrative. I feel like I just came to your TED Talk. You did such a good job with that.
Fingers crossed. That's I actually, ironically, I met someone who books for TED Talk, and I told her about what I was doing. And so hopefully, fingers crossed.
Add that to the bucket list.
Soon,
That's great.
One day soon.
Well, I do have a question though. So with your events business and what you have navigated through in the pandemic and everything that you have learned, what is the thing that has surprised you that you've experienced that you will now apply to the work you're doing, getting beyond the pandemic?
People care. I was concerned because I have a Patreonosity campaign. It'll probably end by the time this goes for, but I have a Patreonosity campaign that I was running, and I was looking at it, and it was a little low, and it wasn't going as slow. But when I told people what we were doing and how we were moving, they started to donate. I had a little girl who couldn't it be like $7 or $8, went into her purse, gave me $10 towards the campaign.
Wow. Because
she was like, oh, is there going to be more art and more vendors, and there's going to be stuff I can do? There's going to be artists like me. And she's like, yes. And then she gave me 10, and her sister gave me 5.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't want, and that was this past weekend. And I was like, I don't want to take their money. Their mom was like, no. But I took it because they saw what art can do. And we were touching them at their level.
Yeah.
So a baby, we're talking, both of them 10 and under, gave me $15.
Wow.
And that's the same way that it's going on. I told one of my artist friends, I'm not going to mention his name because he probably want to know the people he donated, but I told him, hey, the campaign's running low. He went in and he was like, oh, yeah, put $200 in there. Card. And I was like, what? I have a meeting with several banks this upcoming week, and that's not a flex, but I'm like, what? And the banks are asking to meet with me because they're like, we like what you do because it's for the community. So I never thought that even in the corporate, because I'm more community based, that the corporate world cared. And so now to slowly be in the realm of, creating this space, this nightly market and all that, is crazy to me. People do actually care. And there are actual allies too, because sometimes in the Black community, you're not you look a little suspect. Are you really an ally? Are you really someone that I should be talking to? And then I realized, wait, there are. I hired an assistant. Shout out to my assistant, high school intern, Cece. I call her my hella woke white girl, okay? And I call her, and I have another assistant, and I call her my hella black creative Black girl. And my hella white woke girl, Cece, she cares. Whether it's carrying my bag or sharing a post, she cares. Her mother cares. There are people who care about art. There are people who care about community and are willing to support it. Sometimes you just have to vocalize it. So me, I was being quiet when I initially started my campaign, but as I started speaking and talking to people, that's when things changed. That's when money started coming, because it's not all about the money, but you do need money to pay for things. Let's be real.
Yep.
And so there are people who care and are willing to work with you and donate. So that's my greatest lesson. If there are people that care. So in this crazy world of a lot of gray areas, there are still people who are quite colorful and vibrant and jovial who will rock with you wherever you go.
Well, and where can those people find you online?
They can find me in a lot of places. So I wear a lot of hats. But on all my social media platforms, you can find me at Najeema Iman. If you want to get in contact with my business, you can go to www.YouShine Events If you want to get connected with BPLM, with Black People in Lansing, Michigan, if you want to go to the community page, you can go to BPLM Community. And if you would like to be on the ally page, it's BPLM Network. What else do I? Oh, AfterGlo Markets. You can find us on AfterGlo MKT on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, I am so inspired by your enthusiasm and your love for creativity and connection, and so grateful that you have landed in Lansing, because
it was hard. It was hard.
Well,
Robin,
we're happy to have that, though. I mean, it's a community that you have to intentionally come here. You're not just kind of passing through, and to put down roots here and do all the good that you have done. We are so fortunate you're in our presence here. So thank you for being part of this and leading the way with so many things.
Thank you. I'm so happy I'm grateful to be a part of the Lansing community.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us today, Najeema. We appreciate it.
Yes.
This podcast has been a production of the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. To learn more about them, go to lansingarts.org.
Bye-bye.